The St. John of Damascus Orthodox Educational Initiative presents the Damascene Podcast.
Chapter 22. How he gave salutary admonitions to many who came to him, and exposed the impotent snares of the old enemy. But many came to the man of God not only from the furthest parts of Lindisfarne, but even from the more remote parts of Britain, led thither by the fame of his virtues, to confess the errors which they had committed, or the temptations of the devil which they had suffered, or the adversities common to mortals with which they were afflicted, and all hoping to receive consolation from a man so eminent from holiness. Nor did their hope deceive them, for no one went away from him without consolation. No one returned afflicted with the same grief which had brought him thither. For he knew how to comfort the sorrowful and pious with exhortation. He could recall the joys of celestial life to the memory of those who were straitened in circumstances, and show the uncertainty of prosperity and adversary in this life. He had learnt to make known to those who were tempted the numerous wiles of their ancient enemy, by which that mind would easily be captivated which was deprived of brotherly or divine love. Whereas the mind, which strengthened by the true faith should continue its course, would, by the help of God, break the snares of the adversary like the threads of a spider web. How often, said he, have they sent me headlong from the high rock? How many times have they thrown stones at me as if to kill me? Yea, they sought to discourage me by various trials of operations, and to exterminate me from this scene of trial. But they were never able to afflict my body with injury, or my mind with fear. He was accustomed to relate these things more frequently to the brotherhood, lest they should wonder at his conversation as being peculiarly exalted, because, despising secular cares, he preferred to live apart. But, he said, the life of monks may well be wondered at, who are subjected in all things to the orders of the abbot, the times of watching, praying, fasting, and working, being all regulated according to his will. Many of whom I have known far exceed my littleness, both in purity of mind and advancement in prophetic grace, among whom I must mention, with all honor, the venerable Voisel, servant of Christ, who, when an old man, formerly supported me in my youth at Melrose Abbey, and while instructing me, he foretold with prophetic truth all things which would happen to me, and of all things which he foretold to me, one alone remains, which I hope may never be accomplished. Cuthbert told this was a prophecy of Voisel, that this, our holy servant of Christ, should attain to the office of bishop, though he, in his eagerness after the heavenly life, felt horrified at the announcement. Chapter 23. How Alfled the abbess and one of her nuns were cured. But though our man of God was thus secluded from mankind, yet he did not cease from working miracles and curing those who were sick. For a venerable handmaid of Christ, Alfled by name, who amid the joys of virginity devoted her motherly care and piety to several companies of Christ's handmaids, and added to the luster of her princely birth the brighter excellence of exalted virtue, she was inspired with much love towards the holy man of God. About this time, as she afterwards told the Reverend Hereford, presbyter of the Church of Lindisfarne, who related it to me, she was afflicted with several severe illness, and several long, insomuch that she seemed almost at the gates of death. The physicians could do her no good, when all of a sudden the divine grace worked within her, and she by degrees was safe from death, though not fully cured. The pain in her inside left her, the strength of her limbs returned, but the power of standing and walking was still denied her, for she could not support herself on her feet, nor move from place to place save on all fours. Her sorrow was therefore great, and she never expected to recover from her weakness, for she had long abandoned all hope from the physicians. One day, as she was indulging her bitter thoughts, she turned her mind to the holy and tranquil life of the Reverend Father Cuthbert, and expressed a wish that she had in her possession some article that had belonged to him. For I know, and I am confident, said she, that I should soon be well. Not long after this, there came a person who brought with him a linen girdle from St. Cuthbert. She was overjoyed at the gift, and perceiving that heaven had revealed to the saint to her wish, she put it on, and the next morning found herself able to stand upon her feet. On the third day she was restored to perfect health. A few days after, one of the virgins of the same monastery was taken ill with a violent pain in the head, and whilst the complaint became so much worse that she thought she should die, the venerable abbess went to see her. Seeing her sorely afflicted, she brought the girdle of the man of God to her and bound it round her head. The same day the pain in the head left her, and she laid up the girdle in her chest. The abbess wanted it again a few days later, but it could not be found, either in the chest or anywhere else. It was at once perceived that the divine providence had so ordered it, that the sanctity of the man of God might be established by these two miracles, and all occasion of doubting thereof be removed from the incredulous. For if the girdle had remained, all those who were sick would have gone to it, and while some of them would be unworthy of being cured, its efficacy to cure might have been denied, whereas their own unworthiness would have been the blame. Whereof, as I said before, heaven so dealt forth its benevolence from on high, that when the faith of believers had been strengthened, all matter for detraction was forthwith removed from the malice of the unrighteous.